Echika was a disgusting loner suffering from sister complex. However, his life changes when he accidentally awakens a powerful mecha supposed to be piloted by only girls. With that, he is transferred to an all-girls school where he gets to raise different cute girls all ready to marry him. Mecha is fighting a white one covering its pilot face. Suddenly the girl in the pink mecha calls for Echika. He takes the fight while Laura attacks it from behind but ends up getting attacked instead. Suddenly, a blonde girl attacks the white-covered mecha but it doesn't affect it. It looks like the enemy is tired of all the games and launches an omnidirectional attack. The girls try to outrun it while Echika reappears and attacks the mecha. With that, let's come back from where it all started. The scene opens up with a disgusting boy thinking about all his life decisions while sitting in a class full of girls. As he gets all kinds of stares from the girls around, the homeroom teacher enters the class and introduces herself as Yamada Maya. The teacher then asks the transfer student to introduce himself, which he did as Orimura Echika. In an attempt to riz all these beautiful girls, Echika decided to add something extra to his name. However, the effort backfired, leaving him feeling embarrassed about the choice. Suddenly, another black-haired teacher appears and punches him. It's then revealed that she is his elder sister Orimura Chifuyu, who rarely comes back home because of work. Turns out, Chifuyu is a super skilled pilot who represented Japan back in the days. And she's like the boss of the class, teaching everyone how to use this really cool and advanced suit called the Infinite Stratos, or is for short. The suit has the ability to change its shape. On the other hand, Meyer also tells everyone that the Infinite Stratos was first made a decade ago because people wanted to travel to space. But now, they're using it for sports and sometimes even in battles. In the same class, there's a girl named Haoki who is surprisingly childhood friend of Echika. It is then revealed that Echika is the only man in the world who can actually control an Infinite Stratos beside girls. After class, Echika and Haoki decide to go up to the roof to talk. Up there, Echika tells Haoki she looks just like she did when they were kids. Haoki is happy to hear that and says Echika has a great memory. But Echika tells her he could never forget her because she's his childhood friend. And that makes Haoki blush a little. Upon getting back in class, Echika feels super confused about all the stuff they're learning. He raises his hand to ask for help. Chifuyu then asks him if he's read the guidebook, to which Echika admits he didn't. In fact, he threw it away. That's when Chifuyu makes him feel pretty embarrassed in front of the whole class. Cecilia Alcott, who's a really well-known and skilled student from England, walks up to Echika for greeting. However, Echika has no clue who she is, and this makes Cecilia feel pretty insulted. She starts to show off about how she got the top marks in the entrance test by winning against her teacher. Echika then mentions that he, too, managed to win against his own teacher. Hearing this, Cecilia gets super angry and tells him they're definitely going to talk more about this later. Echika is heading back to his room, and a bunch of girls from the class are following him out of curiosity. When he gets there, he hears someone in the shower. As the voice gets closer, Echika realizes it's Haoki. She steps out, only wearing a towel, and both of them freeze, totally shocked. Haoki gets mad, but before doing anything she asks Echika if he asks the school to be her roommate, but Echika swears he didn't. Haoki gets so angry that she grabs a wooden sword and goes after him. Echika has to run out and shut the door, but Haoki keeps stabbing the door with the sword. After she gets dressed, she lets him back in, and they figure out how they'll share the room so there won't be any funny business in future. The next day, Chifuyu announces that the class needs to pick a class rep. This person will fight in upcoming competitions and go to meetings. Suddenly, a few girls suggest Echika should be the rep, but Cecilia gets upset. She thinks she should be the one and throws down a challenge to Echika right there in the classroom, saying they should have a duel to decide who's the rep, and Echika agrees to it. Later on, Chifuyu tells Echika that there aren't any spare robots. Instead, he's going to get his very own special robot, which is a big deal. All the girls are surprised when they hear this because it's not common at all to have your own robot. In fact, there are only 367 like it in the whole world, so it's a pretty rare thing to have. Moreover, Meyer includes that the power of the suits is connected to the pilot's own energy. That means the pilots have to think of their suits as partners, not just machines. And there's another cool fact. The person who made the heart of these suits, the power core, is Dr. Tabane Shinanono. Turns out, she's actually Haoki's big sister. During their break time, Echika wants to grab a bite to eat and asks Haoki to join him. He even asks some other girls, but Haoki's not having it and ends up flipping Echika onto the floor, which scares the other girls off too. However, Echika doesn't give up. He grabs her hand and leads her to the cafeteria anyway. While they're eating, Echika asks if Haoki can show him how to use his new suit. She's not sure at first, but then another girl pops up. She's older and says she can teach him since she knows more. But Haoki isn't backing down. She tells them she's the best person to help Echika as she is the little sister of genius scientist who made these suits. After that, Haoki and Echika start training together. They use wooden swords and do some martial arts that are good for learning how to handle the suits better. However, Haoki outpowers the loser every time, making the girls think if Echika really is strong or just a worthless loser. A week later, all the students gather on the school campus to witness the duel. The teachers, Meyer and Chifuyu, tell Echika that his very own suit, called Byakushiki, is ready. They help him suit up, and Echika touches his suit to make it work while flying off to the battleground. Cecilia is waiting for him there, and presents him an offer to surrender before the duel so he doesn't need to face more embarrassment. But Echika's not about that. He's determined to fight. Cecilia starts shooting right away and lands a hit, but Echika quickly dodges her next shots. He's trying to get close enough to use his sword, but Cecilia is not making it easy as she fires missiles at him. Luckily, Echika's plot armor is super strong. His suit is super tough. It changes into its second form that protects him, and everyone watching is super surprised. Echika goes for a big move on Cecilia, but then, out of nowhere, Chifuyu announces that Cecilia wins. And everyone is confused, but it turns out Echika used up his entire suit's power on his sword swing. After all that, Maya gives Echika a manual to learn how to use his suit properly. Haoki comes up to him and asks if he's sure she should keep helping him train. Echika still says so, and they head back to their room to chill. The following morning, Chifuyu gathers the whole class in order to teach them how to fly. She asks Cecilia and Echika to use them as an example. Cecilia quickly summons her, as meanwhile it takes Echika some time to do so. As both are wearing their suits, Chifuyu tells them to fly, which Cecilia does without any problems, but it seems like Echika needs some time to improve his takeoff. Finally, both are flying in the sky, where Cecilia tells Echika to use his imagination to control his suit, and she also offers to teach him how to do it. Suddenly, Chifuyu instructs them to land, and as expected, Cecilia does it smoothly. However, Echika crash-landed on the ground. Cecilia rushes to check on him, but Haoki scolds him for not doing what she taught him. Later, the whole class celebrates Echika becoming their class rep. Echika is still confused about how this happened, to which Cecilia reveals that she stepped down from the position after realizing that Echika only lost to her because of his lack of experience. During the photo session, Haoki positions herself between Cecilia and Echika when she sees them standing so close, feeling a bit jealous. Back in their room, Haoki is angry at Echika and changes into her nightwear. Echika surprised her by noticing her new dress belt, and she feels better knowing that he notices her daily and apologizes for her behavior earlier that day. The very next day, there's some gossiping among the students about a new kid who's joined the school. And it's not just any new kid. This one's special because she's been picked to be the class rep for Class 2, and she's going to represent China. While everyone's busy gossiping, the new girl herself shows up right at their classroom door. She makes this grand entrance and announces that they're all going to compete in the school's big competition. Echika can't believe his eyes because this new girl is actually an old friend from his past, Lingyan Huang, but he just calls her Rin. She's pretty full of herself, talking up a storm about her awesome skills in her class. However, Chifuyu isn't having any of it and tells Rin to scoot back to her own class. When lunch rolls around, Echika and Rin get a chance to catch up on old times, which kind of makes Haoki and Cecilia feel a bit left out and, well, jealous as they watch the two old friends chatting and laughing while munching on their lunch. Rin's super curious about how Echika ended up at this school, so she pops the question. Echika spills the beans and tells her this wild story. On the day he was supposed to take his entrance test, he totally walked into the wrong room. Instead of finding a bunch of test papers, there's this machine just sitting there. Now, Echika doesn't even think twice, he just goes up to it and touches it. The crazy thing is, the IS starts to sync up with him, like they're connecting. The teachers see this and their jaws drop. They are surprised to see a boy can control an IS, and just like that, they decide to take him in. While they're deep in this chat, Haoki and Cecilia barge in. They're itching to know what's up with Echika and Rin, so Echika breaks it down for them. He tells them that Rin is an old pal from back in the day, the second one he made after Haoki moved away from their school. They're just friends catching up, nothing more. Later at the training ground, both Haoki and Cecilia say they hope to win, and they immediately start arguing over who should train Echika since neither of them wants to be left out. They decide to train together later in the changing room. Rin seeks out Echika and asks if he missed her during the time they haven't seen each other. He responds that he felt lonely without his friend, but her satisfaction is not evident. However, they can't continue their conversation as Echika has to return to his room with Haoki. Rin surprisingly asks if he sleeps with Haoki, and he explains that they are just roommates. Rin then accompanies him to the room and suggests to Haoki that they switch rooms, but she refuses and tries to kick Rin out of the room by attacking her with a sword. However, Rin quickly partially summons an arm of hers, demonstrating her incredible reflexes. Rin tries to remind Echika about a promise they made when they were just kids, but she gets extremely angry when she realizes that Echika is dumb enough to interpret what she wants. She then throws down a challenge for the upcoming school face-off. When it's time for the showdown at the school, it's Echika's turn to go against Rin. Haoki and Chifuyu toss him some last-minute tips before he steps into the ring. As the match kicks off, Rin's all set to make the first move, but Echika's not just standing around. He whips out his sword and heads straight for her. The epic battle begins, and both fighters go all out, attacking and dodging each other's moves. Rin is surprised by Echika's toughness and ability to withstand her attacks. She switches up her strategy and finally lands a hit, knocking him down. But Echika doesn't give up. He gets back on his feet, even more determined than before. He starts evading Rin's shots and remembers a technique his sister taught him with the same sword. Echika confidently teases Rin, letting her know that this time he's going to fight seriously. Just as expected, Rin fires at him, but Echika skillfully dodges the attack, getting ready to strike back with his sword. However, right at that moment, something unexpected falls from the sky, causing a huge explosion in the arena. Professor Maya quickly tells everyone to leave the school and says to Echika and Rin that they should get inside to safety. But Echika has another idea. He wants to keep the enemy busy so all the students can get away safely. The enemy takes a shot at Echika, but he's fast. He zooms up into the air, grabs Rin, and dodges the laser. When the dust settles, they see who they're up against, a mysterious unknown robot. Rin comes up with a plan as she proposes to keep the robot busy so Echika can get in close and hit it with his sword. They start their plan, but the enemy is good at defending itself. Echika tries to hit it, but he misses a bunch of times. Back in the control room, Cecilia really wants to help out in the fight, so she asks Chifuyu if she can jump in. But Chifuyu refuses because the bad guy messed with the security, and now no one can get out. They're all stuck. Chifuyu believes that Echika and Rin can handle it, though. She tells everyone else they need to believe in them too. In the middle of the fight, Echika and Rin keep trying their best to land a hit on the enemy. They start thinking that there's something weird about this enemy. It's not acting like a person is inside it. Echika figures it must be a robot running on its own. Knowing this, they decide they don't have to worry about hurting anyone and can go all out. Echika gets ready to use all his power to split the robot in half with his sword. Just then, Haoki yells out from where she's watching, and the robot turns to look at her, ready to fire. Echika quickly tells Rin to give it all she's got and shoot her weapon. But before she does, he jumps in front, ready to take the hit and make his own power even stronger with his sword. With his energy at the max, he rushes at the robot and chops off one of its arms. Still, the robot doesn't go down and aims at Echika again. Right when it's about to shoot, boom, it gets hit by a powerful blast. Cecilia somehow got out and is now showing the robot she's in charge. But the robot isn't giving up and targets Echika one more time. Echika isn't beaten yet, though. He gets back up and launches himself right at the robot. Later on, Echika opens his eyes in the health room just as Rin was super close to giving him a kiss. He just barely avoids being kissed while Rin quickly tells him that the robot stopped working and that nobody else got hurt. Right at that moment, Cecilia walks in and gets mad seeing Rin there. But then, Haoki also comes into the room and gets really annoyed to see both Rin and Cecilia there. All three of them start to argue with each other. Echika, wanting to change the subject, asks them if they know where Chifuyu is, but they all say they don't know where she might be. At the same time, Chifuyu is hanging out with Maya, looking over the robot in another place. They figure out that this robot has a special part inside it that's not like the other 367 robots they know about. This unique part lets the robot work on its own without anyone controlling it. At a random day, Echika can be seen playing video game at his friend Dan's house. Suddenly, his sister Ran kicks open the door telling Dan the food is ready but quickly get aside and straighten her clothes when she sees Echika is in the house. She is surprised to see Echika there, but she also invites him to join them at the table. In the evening, Echika and Haoki are hanging out in their room when their teacher, Maya, enters. Maya tells Haoki that she can switch rooms if she wants, but Haoki says that she has no problem staying with Echika. However, Echika interrupted and assures Haoki that she doesn't need to worry about him because he could wake up on his own. This made Haoki angry, and she decided move rooms that night. But after a short while, she returned and challenged Echika. She asked him to take her out on a date if she manages to win the competition, leaving Echika surprised. The following day, there's a new student from France named Charles Dunois with shiny golden hair. All the girls in the class get really excited since there's another boy joining them. Their teacher, Chifuyu, steps in and tells everyone to chill out. She picks Echika to hang out with Charles, thinking it'll be easier for Charles to get used to things with another guy around. But girls can't sit still, wondering about Echika and the new guy. Echika takes Charles to the locker room to gear up for training. While they're changing, Charles seems a little shy and asks Echika to look away. Out in the arena, Chifuyu tells Rin and Cecilia to show off their skills and hints that Echika will be watching. They get really pumped to show their best moves. Out of nowhere, Teacher Maya tumbles from the sky and lands on Echika, leaving him in a pretty awkward situation. Echika's friends get super jealous and start going after him, but fortunately, Maya steps in just in time to stop them. In the classroom, Chifuyu tells Rin and Cecilia that Professor Maya will be their opponent. They mistakenly think it'll be easy to defeat her together, but they're in for a surprise. They fail to land any shots on Professor Maya, who manages to confuse them and make them tangle with each other. Eventually, she shoots them down, leaving them completely exhausted. Chifuyu uses this as a teaching moment, hoping they now have a greater respect for their teacher. Afterwards, Chifuyu organizes teams with personalized as units to facilitate learning. Echika and Charles find themselves surrounded by all the girls, each hoping to be chosen for their teams. Once the teams are formed, Echika starts teaching each girl how to walk in a suit. It's Haoki's turn, but she struggles to climb into the upper part of the suit due to her height. Chifuyu steps in and orders Echika to lift Haoki into the suit. As Echika carries Haoki, she takes the opportunity to invite him to lunch, and he happily accepts. After the meal, Echika invites Charles to join Cecilia and Rin, which frustrates Haoki. Rin prepares Echika's favorite dish. Cecilia offers sandwiches and snacks from her country, and Rin prepares a delicious traditional meal that Echika enjoys the most, triggering jealousy among the others. Later, Charles settles into Echika's room, and they plan to train together after classes the next day. During class, teacher Yamada announces another new exchange student named Laura Bodwig from Germany. After introducing herself, Laura unexpectedly approaches Echika and slaps him, declaring that she will never accept him as Chifuyu's younger brother, leaving everyone shocked. After class, Echika practices with the girls, but he has trouble understanding their explanations. Out of blue, Charles challenges him to a duel to see how skilled he is, and Echika accepts. They start with close combat, but Charles switches to long-range attacks, and Echika struggles to defend himself. He realizes that he needs to learn more about long-range weapons. Charles lends him his own weapon, and Echika feels more connected and satisfied learning from Charles compared to his female classmate. Out of nowhere, Laura shows up with her fancy Germanese and challenges Echika to a fight, but Echika doesn't want to fight and says he has no reason to. However, Laura tries to force him by shooting at him. Thankfully, Charles steps in and blocks the shot with his shield, protecting Echika. Then, Chifuyu steps in and scolds them through a megaphone for their behavior. Echika thanks Charles for saving him and asks why he doesn't want to change together. However, Charles gets all flustered and quickly runs off to the dormitory. While walking, Echika sees Laura talking to his sister. Laura is upset because she couldn't convince Chifuyu to go back to Germany. She thinks Chifuyu's job as a tutor is a waste of time. Chifuyu scolds Laura for acting immature and sends her to her room. Then, Chifuyu scolds Echika too, saying he shouldn't be spying on others and should focus on his training. This conversation brings back memories for Echika. He remembers when he was kidnapped while his sister was competing in the AS World Championship. Chifuyu chose to rescue him instead of continuing the competition. From that moment, Echika promised himself that he won't rely on his sister anymore. In their room, Echika notices that Charles left the soap outside, so he goes to hand it to him. However, when he opens the bathroom door, he realizes that Charles is not the person he claimed to be, so he blushes and immediately covers himself. After leaving the bathroom, Echika offers Charles some tea, and Charles explains that she had been pretending to be a boy on the orders of their father, who owns the best second-generation IS factory in France. The company is nearly bankrupt, and Charles was sent to gather manufacturing information from other IS units and to gain fame as the second male IS pilot. Echika promises not to tell anyone, but just then, Cecilia knocks on the door and enters the room, causing Charles to quickly jump onto the bed, covering themselves up to the neck and pretending to be sick to avoid being discovered. After Cecilia and Echika leave for dinner, they bump into Haoki in the hallway. Haoki complains about how close Cecilia and Echika are. She then decides to join them and they all go to have dinner together. Later, Echika goes back to their dorm room with food for Charles. Since Charles doesn't know how to use chopsticks, she asks Echika to feed her the food, to which Echika happily agrees. Meanwhile, in another place, Laura is making a plan to get rid of Echika. During the night when Haoki issued her challenge to Echika, proposing a date if she wins in the school tournament, a curious classmate eavesdropped and misinterpreted the terms. This misunderstanding sparked a widespread rumor, suggesting that winning the championship will get the winner a date with Echika. This unexpected turn surprised Haoki, as she realized how her original intentions had been distorted. Nevertheless, she remains resolute in her determination to claim victory in the upcoming tournament, mindful of avoiding the pitfalls of the past. Haoki's upbringing was marked by loneliness, with minimal interaction with her family. Kendo served as her sole refuge from this isolation. But the turmoil within her manifested in overly aggressive fighting, inadvertently causing harm to her opponents. Now, with a newfound sense of purpose, Haoki is driven to succeed in the tournament through fair and honorable means. Meanwhile, Cecilia and Rin were training in the arena when Laura showed up and started teasing them. They decided to fight back and tried to hit Laura, but she dodged every shot effortlessly. It got really loud, and Echika, Charles, and Hauki heard the commotion. They hurried to the arena and saw Laura easily blocking Rin's attacks and then attacking without mercy. In a last attempt, Cecilia fired a missile up close, but when the smoke cleared, Laura was completely fine. She trapped them again and kept beating them up, which made Echika really mad. He couldn't take it anymore, so he broke through the arena barrier to help them. But Laura blocked his attack and called him weak. Charles stepped in and shot at Laura while Echika made sure the girls were safe, but Laura was tough for him too. Chifuyu steps in and stops the fight, scolding them for the damage caused and telling them to save their battle for the tournament. Later, Cecilia and Rin wake up in the infirmary feeling achy, and their classmates come in with news that the tournament will be in pairs. Everyone wants to be Echika's partner, but he chooses Charles. Everyone, including Cecilia and Rin, feels a bit disappointed. However, their teacher, Maya, tells them that they can't participate because they need to recover. But they assure Echika that they'll support him and believe that if he wins, he won't have to go on a date with any of the girls. Charles thanks Echika for choosing him as a partner for the tournament, avoiding a random pairing. When it's time to sleep, Charles suggests that they change clothes while facing away from each other. However, as they do so, Charles gets tangled up and falls down. Echika turns around to help, but he slips. Charles kicks Echika in her embarrassment, making him unconscious. She then puts Echika on his bed and goes to her own bed. The next day, they announce the results of the random pairings and the tournament schedule. Hauki finds out that she will be partnered with Laura and will also face Echika and Charles. Echika faced off against Laura, swinging his sword, but she blocked him with her shield. However, that was just a distraction. While Laura was focused on Echika, Charles took a shot at her. Hauki joined the fight, but Laura didn't cooperate and left her unsupported. Echika and Charles decided to combine their suits for a more powerful attack. Hauki recovered and continued to fight, but Charles strategically shot her, disabling her. As Echika's sword failed again, Charles appeared behind him and managed to injure Laura. Despite this, she kept fighting. In a surprising move, Echika and Charles exchanged weapons and struck her repeatedly. Laura witnesses her defeat and reflects on her past. She realizes that she was created for combat, which fuels her determination not to lose. Suddenly, an unknown function in her suit activates, transforming her into a powerful weapon. She even copies Echika's sister's technique, which infuriates him even more. However, Echika's energy runs out, but Charles shares hers. Once recharged, Echika activates his sword and successfully slices through Laura's suit, setting her free. Echika realizes that Laura's suit had control over her instead of the other way around. He promises to protect her just like he does with his friends. On the other hand, the tournament gets cancelled, and the students are sad because now none of them can go on a date with Echika. However, Echika tells Hauki that he still wants to go out with her regardless of everything, which makes her excited. But her excitement fades when she hears Echika suggesting going shopping. Teacher Maya tells Echika and Charles about a special bath for boys where they can relax. Echika goes to the bath without expecting Charles to join him. But when Charles does join him, Echika feels embarrassed and wants to leave. However, Charles stops him and confesses that she decided to stay at the school because of him. She even gets closer to him while mentioning he can call her Charlotte now. The next day, a new student named Charlotte joins the school. The girls find out that Charlotte had always been a girl and had shared the room and bathroom with Echika. This makes them angry, and Rin tries to shoot Echika. But suddenly, Laura appears and protects him. She even kisses him on the mouth and declares that she will make Echika her bride. Later that night, Hauki gives her older sister a call. Her sister tells her that she's ready to customize her suit for her the next morning. When Echika wakes up, he finds himself next to Laura, which startles him. He realizes that she's not wearing any clothes and asks her about it. Laura responds by saying that since they're engaged, they can sleep together. Echika tries to explain, but Laura puts him in a hold just as Hauki enters the room. Hauki is shocked and angrily hits Echika. After that, Echika and Charlotte go shopping together to find swimsuits for their school trip. Charlotte asks Echika to hold her hand, but Echika thinks it's just to make sure they don't get separated or lost while walking. Cecilia and Rin watch them closely, curious about the nature of their relationship while Laura joins them. While Echika and Charlotte are walking, Echika's friends show up and greet him. Rin tells him that she will be joining his school soon and he wishes her good luck. Suddenly, Charlotte quickly takes Echika to a swimsuit store and brings him into a fitting room. She noticed that they were being followed. Behind Echika, Charlotte undresses to try on a swimsuit, which makes him very nervous. Once she's ready, she asks Echika to turn around and look at her, seeking his opinion. Just then, Chifuyu and Meyer open the curtain and scold them for changing together at the beach. Rin playfully jumps on Echika's shoulders, but Cecilia interrupts and asks Echika to apply sunscreen on her back, making the others jealous. Once they are in the water, they start racing towards a boy. Unfortunately, Rin's leg starts to cramp, causing her to lose control of her body. But Echika quickly comes to her aid and brings her back to the shore. Cecilia forcefully takes Rin to the infirmary while the others continue to play volleyball. Suddenly, Laura gets hit in the face with the ball because she was distracted, thinking about the compliment Echika gave her earlier. In the end, everyone has a great time and enjoy a beautiful afternoon. Later, Haoki tells Chifuyu that she spoke to her sister but she doesn't know anything about the hostile suits. The next day, they all have a fancy lunch together. Cecilia starts feeling uncomfortable and asks Echika to feed her. This makes the other girls complain loudly, and Chifuyu appears to scold them. Later, Echika invites Cecilia to her room, and she accepts, thinking they will have some alone time. Cecilia dresses provocatively, catching the attention of her classmates. When Cecilia arrives at Echika's room, she discovers the girls trying to listen in on a conversation happening behind the door. It seems like their voices were concerning. Cecilia decides to give it a try as well, but unfortunately, the door collapses. It turns out that Echika was giving his sister a massage, and both of them look at Cecilia and the girls strangely. However, Chifuyu suggests that Echika should give massages to the girls too. He starts with Cecilia, but Chifuyu interrupts and lifts her robe, revealing her plot. She comments that it's quite daring for her age. Then, Chifuyu sends Echika to get some drinks to get rid of him and asks the girls directly what they like about Echika. She advises them to put more effort if they want to achieve something with him. The next day, as Echika and Haoki are on their way to class, they come across some buried rabbit ears on the ground with a written message. Haoki doesn't pay much attention and walks away, but Echika picks up the ears. Suddenly, something falls from the sky, and it turns out to be a giant carrot. And guess what? Tabane, Haoki's sister, emerges from it and greets Echika. She then goes off to find Haoki. Later, Chifuyu gathers all the students who have personalized his units, and Tabane joins them to greet her little sister. But then, something else falls from the sky. It's a never-before-seen 4th generation is specifically designed for Haoki. Everyone is surprised as Haoki tests it and shows off its incredible speed and attack power. However, Maya arrives with some bad news. She informs them that another drone has gone out of control and is heading towards the school. Chifuyu asks Echika if he can take it down, but Tabane insists that Haoki's new suit is the best for the mission, so they decide to go together and save the day. As the big moment arrives, Echika and Haoki get ready to fight. Haoki gives Echika a piggyback ride to reach the target faster. They find the enemy, and Haoki tries to get really close so Echika can use his powerful sword to bring it down. But the enemy is tricky and flies even faster, avoiding their attacks. They try again, but fail once more. They give it a third shot, and it seems like it might work this time. But Echika changes his mind and rushes to intercept shots aimed at another enemies. Haoki gets angry and calls them criminals who don't deserve protection. But Echika stops her and reminds her about the importance of saving lives and how much she has grown stronger, leaving behind her weaker self. Haoki realizes her mistake and starts crying. The enemy takes advantage of the situation and attacks them with projectiles, but Echika shields Haoki, and they both fall into the water. Afterwards, Chifuyu keeps looking for another solution while the girls wait outside, really worried about Echika. Haoki starts feeling guilty and realizes that Echika is the only one protecting everyone on the boat while she's selfishly seeking enjoyment from the fight. Maya shows up and tells her to take a rest, following Chifuyu's orders, but Haoki goes to the beach and can't stop running while thinking about how Echika always defended her when they were kids. Eventually, the girls find her and Rin scolds her, saying that she can't just stay there crying when it's time to fight. Laura manages to track down the Silver Gospel, and when she sees the determination of the others, she feels motivated to join the battle. Upon finding their target, the girls attack the Silver Gospel, but the droid is really quick and easily dodges their attacks. They decide to work together to take it down. Meanwhile, Echika is dreaming about a peaceful place where he sees a girl in a white outfit. While the battle is going on, the girls keep fighting, and Echika sees another armored woman standing on a beach in the distance. Haoki manages to land a hit on the android, making it lose part of its weapons and fall down. Then, the woman on the beach asks Echika if he wants to be strong. At the same time, the Silver Gospel comes out of the water in a more powerful form. Echika answers the woman in his dream and says that he wants to protect his friends. The girl in white tells him that he must go into battle. The android is really strong and starts overpowering each of the girls one by one. Haoki falls down and really wishes to see Echika. And guess what? Her wish comes true. Echika arrives just in time to help. He launches an attack on the android and successfully blocks its shots. The other girls quickly join in, and they all combine their attacks in a sequence. Haoki's strong desire to protect Echika unlocks a hidden ability in her suit, which allows her to recharge her own energy and replenish Echika's too. Together, they coordinate their attacks as a team and manage to damage the android. Finally, Echika delivers a decisive strike and defeats it. After the battle, Chifuyu scolds them for not following orders, but she also gives them a day off to acknowledge their achievement. While the rest of their classmates are having lunch and curious about what happened, they realize that Echika and Haoki are missing. Haoki is at the beach with Tabane, asking for her opinion on a hypothetical situation where someone planned everything to make her younger sister debut as an pilot in a grand way. Tabane thinks it would be a fantastic idea and hints that she might have planned it all. Later, Haoki finds Echika and apologizes for her mistakes. In the process, she accidentally bumps into him with her talents. She apologizes and then places Echika's hand on herself, nervously asking if he realizes that she's a woman. Echika confirms and they lean in for a kiss, but suddenly the other girls discover them and get really angry. They threaten to kill Echika and start shooting at him. After a while, Echika has a dream where he sees a lady in armor who looks like his sister. He thinks it's a good idea to approach her when the surroundings turn dark. But suddenly, the woman grabs him by the neck and tries to kill him. When he wakes up, he sees Laura lying in his bed, waiting for him to wake up. Echika feels embarrassed because he's worried Laura might be commando again. But this time she's wearing a Japanese high school swimsuit. She gives him a flyer for the end of summer festival and invites him to go. Echika agrees and thinks it would be great if everyone could go, but this makes Laura angry, while Echika doesn't understand the reason. Later on, a big car pulls up and drops off Cecilia right in front of the academy. She's super happy to see Echika again and he greets her warmly. Echika even invites her to the end of summer festival, and Cecilia happily accepts without knowing that they won't be alone. On the other hand, Laura and Charlotte are having lunch together when Charlotte suggests going shopping for some new clothes. Meanwhile, Rin is in her room when Echika knocks on her door and walks in. Rin gets mad at him but then notices the invitation to the festival that Laura and Charlotte are at. Speaking of Laura and Charlotte, they're at the store looking for clothes. Charlotte finds a cute black dress and some heels for Laura to try on. She helps Laura walk in them, and let me tell you, Laura looks absolutely stunning. People around them start taking photos. While all of that is happening, Haoki is taking a shower when Echika knocks on the door to invite her to the festival. Haoki eagerly accepts the invitation. Meanwhile, Charlotte and Laura are having a great time at a restaurant. Charlotte playfully teases Laura, saying that she wants Echika to see her in her new dress. Suddenly, the manager, who had been observing them, interrupts and offers them part-time jobs. Of course, Charlotte and Laura accept the offer. Charlotte is given a butler outfit that fits her perfectly, and she dazzles the girls as she serves a table. Laura, on the other hand, is given a maid outfit that makes her look adorable. But then, some guys enter the place and try to rob it. They even take the customers hostage and demand a getaway car from the police. Fortunately, Laura and Charlotte step in and start fighting the criminals. However, one of the criminals reveals a bomb. However, Laura and Charlotte manage to shoot and destroy it, saving everyone. Laura even cleans off the bomb residue with her tongue, which surprises and intimidates Charlotte a bit. Later, it's nighttime and Charlotte dresses Laura in a cute cat-themed pajama. Charlotte wears a matching one herself. Just then, Echika arrives to invite Charlotte to the festival. He finds their choice of pajamas amusing but cute. In another place, there's a woman who looks a lot like Chifuyu. She goes to the headquarters, but the guards start shooting at her. However, she's really skilled and defeats them all. This catches the attention of some warriors in suits who arrive on the scene. One of them asks her what her goal is, and she confidently says that she's there to find and take the seal that's located in the base. She transforms and gets ready to attack. The next day, all the girls gather to go to the festival. They're feeling a bit annoyed because they realize that Echika invited everyone reluctantly. But despite that, they all go together and end up having a really great time. Each girl tries to catch Echika's attention in their own special way. As the night comes to an end, they gather around a bonfire and bid farewell to the summer vacation. It's a bittersweet moment. Meanwhile, there's a girl with blue hair who appears on top of the academy. She tells someone that it's her time to go now. The next day, Echika and Rin have their first practical training of the new semester. They start fighting, and Echika seems to be doing well at first. But as the fight goes on, he starts to get tired and eventually Rin defeats him. Later, while Echika is changing, a really unique and quirky girl comes up to him. He asks her who she is, but she just tells him that he's going to be late for class. And guess what? She's right. Chifuyu ends up asking Charlotte to shoot Echika as a way to teach him a lesson. Afterward, during a school gathering, the quirky girl reveals herself as Tatenashi Sarashiki, the unexpected student council president. She shares the school's agenda and reminds everyone about the upcoming school festival. In their class, they start discussing different ideas for entertainment at the festival. Surprisingly, all of them want something that involves Echika. However, he declines their suggestions. Then, Laura comes up with a brilliant idea, a maid cafe. It's a fun way to earn money, and everyone agrees. Later on, while Echika is walking in the hallway, he bumps into Tatenashi once again. She tells him that she will be his trainer, even though Echika mentions that he already has other trainers. Tate Nashi insists that he should be trained by the bestest pilot in the school because he's considered the weakest. This makes Echika angry, and he challenges her to a duel. They engage in a hand-to-hand duel to determine the outcome. But no matter how hard Echika tries, Tate Nashi ultimately defeats him. Echika doesn't give up and comes up with a strategy to approach her, but accidentally sees her talents. This makes Tate Nashi angry, and she knocks him out. Looks like Echika's training isn't going quite as planned. Later on, Echika wakes up to find himself resting on Tate Nashi's lap. Suddenly, Laura enters the room and sees Echika in someone else's lap. Without thinking twice, she attacks him, but Tate Nashi effortlessly stops her with a hand fan. With Tate Nashi's victory, she becomes Echika's exclusive trainer, while the other girls have to accept being training partners. Tate Nashi then asks the girls to demonstrate their skills and actions for Echika to observe. It's Rin and Cecilia's turn next. Tate Nashi explains that the exercise focuses on shooting abilities. Unfortunately, Echika is ultimately defeated. Later, when Echika returns to his room, he finds Tate Nashi wearing some really strange clothes. She calls him master and asks him what he wants to do first. Suddenly, Haoki visits Echika's room, but upon hearing a girl's voice, she bursts in to attack him. However, Tate Nashi effortlessly stops her without any problem. The next day, Tate Nashi helps Echika improve his speed with a tough exercise. Afterward, Echika feels really tired and ends up falling asleep while his friends chat around him. The next day, the Maid Cafe opens, and Echika welcomes customers at the entrance. Rin shows up dressed in traditional Chinese clothes and chooses a set called Enjoy Your Butler. At first, Echika hesitates, but Rin is persistent, so he ends up serving her tea and chocolate sticks. He surprises her by letting her feed him, but then she insists on being fed too. Just as things start getting interesting, Haoki interrupts them. Later on, a blonde lady interrupts Echika and offers him some equipment from her company. Echika wants to decline, but he finds himself unable to. Luckily, his friend steps in and helps him escape the situation. Afterwards, the girl asks Echika to join her in a play where he plays the role of a prince. Echika mentions that he doesn't know the script, but she reassures him that they can make it up as they go along. As the play begins, Echika is left standing in the middle of the stage, feeling lost and not knowing what to do. Suddenly, Rin appears and starts attacking him. As Echika narrowly avoids being hit by Rin's attack, he suddenly hears the sound of gunshots. It turns out that Cecilia is sniping from a distance and joins in the attack. Tate Nashi had declared that whoever takes Echika's crown can move in with him, so everyone is after him. In the middle of the chaos, Charlotte tries to protect Echika by using a bulletproof glass and asks him to give her the crown. However, Tate Nashi electrocutes him, making it impossible for him to take it off. Cecilia and Rin continue shooting at him, followed by Laura, but luckily they manage to dodge the missile that Tate Nashi launches at Laura. Now, Echika encounters Haoki, who is determined to take his crown. But this is not going to be that easy, as Tate Nashi drops a giant ball that comes rolling towards them. In the end, Laura catches up and starts fighting with Haoki. But to make things more interesting, Tate Nashi releases more girls to join the challenge. Echika attempts to escape, but suddenly a small door opens in the ground and an arm pulls Echika inside. It turns out it's the saleswoman from before. Echika thanks her but wonders and asks her what she is doing here, to which she transforms into a giant spider and tries to steal Echika's Byakushiki armor. Echika inquires about her identity, to which she replies that she is the mysterious beauty and kicks him away. Echika sees the opportunity and quickly transforms into Byakushiki. The woman also changes into her spider likeness. Echika again asks about her true identity, to which she replies that she is from the evil organization called Phantom Task. Echika attacks her and slices off one of her legs, but the woman grabs him and starts shooting at him head-on. Seeing his shield power going down, Echika releases smoke and sneaks out to attack again with his sword. In the meantime, Maya tells Chifuyu that an unidentified is in the locker room. Chifuyu orders Maya to evacuate the students and keep watching for more enemies. Upon hearing Maya's warning, the girls join the battle and intercept another enemy. Meanwhile, the hostile woman introduces herself as Autumn, a member of Phantom Task, and continues to attack Echika, but Tate Nashi arrives to help him. Meanwhile, Cecilia and Rin engage in a battle with the enemies, but it proves to be more powerful. Back to Tate Nashi, who shields Echika with a water barrier, preventing Autumn from bringing them down. Tate Nashi utilizes her to manipulate water, proving to be highly effective. However, Autumn manages to damage Tate Nashi's and immobilize her. In response, Echika re-enters the battle, driving Autumn towards the campus. At that moment, the other reappears, claiming to be there to retrieve Autumn. Echika asks for the pilot's identity, but she immediately launches an attack against him. Meanwhile, Charlotte and Hauki confront Autumn while Echika faces off against the unknown pilot who manages to defeat him. Suddenly, the pilot receives a call and retreats, leaving the scene, while Autumn detonates her armor and escape. Now, Meyer and Chifuyu assess the hostile pilots. They identify the eyes of one of them as a stolen English armor, leading them to deduce that Echika's Byakushiki is the new target. Meanwhile, Autumn is having an angry discussion with the other pilot who looks like Chifuyu when their leader, Squall Musil, is revealed. She's been behind everything to seek revenge against Chifuyu. Back at the academy, Tate Nashi reveals to Echika that she was so close to him because her mission was to protect him and that her family is known for participating in secret operations like this. The next day, something unexpected happens to Echika. He falls into a trap and gets kidnapped. But then Maya, who is dressed in a funny disguise, announces a competition called the Best Service Provided for Echika. Echika is confused but has no other choice but to sit and watch what's going on. The first contestant is Hauki, who is wearing fox ears and a tail. She offers Echika some tea, and although she's nervous, she manages to make him have a really good time. During their interaction, they share a moment of intense eye contact. But then Meyer announces that time is up. Now it's Cecilia's turn, and she's dressed in bunny ears and a tail. Cecilia decides to teach Echika how to play billiards, but she also tries to riz him while doing so. After Cecilia's turn, it's Charlotte's chance to impress Echika. She's dressed as a French poodle and brings him some cookies. Charlotte asks him to close his eyes as she tries to feed him the cookies with her mouth. However, the others get jealous and start crying out, which startles Echika. As a result, the cookie ends up falling between Charlotte's talons. She takes this opportunity to suggest that he tries to eat it. However, Meyer interrupts and says that Cecilia did something inappropriate, so she's disqualified from the competition. Next, it's Laura's turn, and she's dressed as a black rabbit. She invites Echika to play darts and win some prizes. Guess what? Echika actually wins a prize that contains Laura's swimsuit. Suddenly, the lights go out and the stage changes. Now Tate Nashi appears, dressed as a cat, and she tries to get really close to Echika in a rizzing way. But just when things are getting interesting, the lights come back on and Rin enters the scene. She demands that Tate Nashi gives back her costume, but Tate Nashi manages to escape from Rin's grip. Later, Maya gathers everyone back on stage for the final part of the event. When they arrive, Chifuyu surprises them by dressing up as a maid. She then lovingly feeds Echika by hand while the others wish him a happy birthday. Echika expresses his gratitude to everyone, especially his sister, because it's been a while since they celebrated his birthday together. Later, Meyer asks Echika who he thinks should win, but Echika says it's Chifuyu. Afterwards, while Echika is taking a stroll in the park, he encounters a girl who looks just like Chifuyu. But here's the twist. She claims to be Echika himself and says she's going to end his life. However, her actual name is Madoka Orimura. Echika is understandably confused by this unexpected turn of events. To make matters worse, she even shoots at him. Luckily, Madoka's plan to harm Echika is foiled when Laura's shield blocks the shot just in the nick of time. In response, Laura bravely fights back against Madoka, but unfortunately, Madoka manages to escape. Echika expresses his gratitude to Laura for saving him, and in that moment, he notices how stunning her eyes are. This causes Laura to blush, adding a sweet and romantic touch to the situation. After a few nights, Charlotte and Echika are together, keeping an eye out while they're escorting some imported equipment. Suddenly, they come across some unknown enemies. They manage to defeat them, but unfortunately, one of the enemies causes an explosion near Charlotte. Thankfully, Echika jumps in and shields her from harm. The next day, Meyer examines Echika and assures him that he's okay, but there's something off with his engine. After running some tests, they realize that Echika needs to take a break from using his armor until it's fixed. In the meantime, Charlotte steps up and volunteers to protect Echika. Later, Laura inquires about Echika's preferred undies from a catalog, expressing her interest in knowing his preferences. The topic becomes a hot discussion among all of them, and Charlotte realizes that her own undies have gone missing. She goes to her room to put on a different pair, but that also disappears. She realizes it's a flaw in her own and considers taking it off but decides against it as she wouldn't be able to protect Echika, so she tries to go about her activities with great embarrassment. The girls learn about the abnormalities in Echika, so they argue about who will protect him, but once again, Tate Nashi wins the argument and takes on the mission. Later, Laura notices Charlotte's situation and lifts her skirt when she has the chance, but just then, the issue had been resolved, and Charlotte had her shorts back. On another note, Maya figured out what was causing the problems. It turns out that one of the prototypes had a weird material in its core, and that messed up Echika. As for the attack, They couldn't find any link to Phantom Task, and it seems like those guys were just spies. The next day, Kaoruko asks Echika if he wants to do something while Haoki is asked by one of their classmates' older sisters, who work in an advertising company, to have an interview. Rin interrupts and shows her own modeling pictures, but their teacher Chifuyu sends her back to her classroom. Later, Echika asks Haoki if she wants to go for the interview. At first, Haoki wants to refuse, but then the interviewer's little sister comes and offers them free dinner tickets to a fancy restaurant after the interview. Haoki is unable to resist and quickly takes the tickets without any hesitation and agrees to do the interview. On the day of the interview, Mayuzumi Nagasako, the older sister of their classmate, starts the interview by asking Echika about his experience at an all-girls school. He says it's uncomfortable because there aren't many men's restrooms. She then asks Haoki how she felt when she received a news from Tabane, and if she wants to represent her nation. Haoki thanks her sister for the suit but says she doesn't plan on becoming a representative. Nagasako then asks them who is stronger between the two, and Haoki confidently says she is, with Echika agreeing. Haoki gets a little shy when Echika adds that he'll protect her no matter what. During the photo session, Haoki puts on the dress she was given. She realizes it's a bit daring, but she wants to take advantage of the opportunity. Nagasako starts the photo shoot and tells them to get closer. Both of them feel nervous but continue. Echika holds Haoki by the waist, and she embraces him. On their way back to the academy, Haoki is happy and not paying much attention. She stumbles and breaks her heel, and Echika offers her a piggyback ride. As they head home, Haoki falls asleep, and in her dreams, she whispers that she loves him. While everything was happening, Squall decides to talk to Madoka about their previous encounter with Echika. She wants to know if Madoka is interested in Echika, but she denies it and makes it clear that she's actually interested in Chifuyu. This makes Squall realize that Madoka wants to pursue Chifuyu instead. At the same time, Echika remembers his interaction with Madoka and decides to ask Chifuyu if they have another sister. Chifuyu responds by saying that it's just the two of them, indicating that they don't have any other siblings. Later on, Meyer announces a special duel for couples. Tate Nashi asks Echika to choose her younger sister, Kanzashi, as his partner so that she can gain some experience. Echika agrees and sets out to find Kanzashi. However, Laura also wants to be Echika's partner and approaches him. Echika kindly explains that he already has a partner. The other girls overhear this conversation, and each of them starts believing that they are the chosen one. Surprisingly, when Echika proposes to Kanzashi to be his partner, she casually refuses without showing much interest. The next day, Echika doesn't give up and keeps insisting to Kanzashi. She wonders why he's so persistent and ends up rejecting him by hitting him. Later, Tate Nashi explains to Echika that Kanzashi might be feeling pressured because she built her as on her own. Her sister believes that she needs to meet certain expectations, which could be affecting her response to Echika's proposal. In the meantime, the girls have already found out that Echika wants Kanzashi as his partner for the championship. Each of them starts training hard to show him what they're capable of. Tate Nashi interrupts Haoki's training and suggests that they become partners. Haoki agrees, and Tate Nashi starts analyzing her physical condition to help them prepare for the competition. Later on, Kanzashi decides to test her is. At first, everything goes smoothly, but then her suit starts malfunctioning, causing her to start falling from the sky. Fortunately, Echika was searching for her and managed to find her just in time. Kanzashi expresses her gratitude to him for saving her, and he suggests that they have a meal together. During their meal, Echika asks Kanzashi once again to team up with him, and this time she finally accepts. Kanzashi and Echika then work together to repair and upgrade her as with the help of the Academy's maintenance team. They utilize data from Echika's Byakushiki, or so they thought. However, when Kanzashi goes to find Echika later, she overhears him talking to Tate Nashi and learns that the computer data used for the upgrades in hers were actually from her sister's. This revelation shocks Kanzashi, and feeling overwhelmed, she flees without anyone noticing. Out of nowhere, an alarm blares, and Meyer alerts everyone that they are under attack by highly advanced as androids. Chifuyu quickly instructs the teachers to guide the students to safety while the combat. Instructors get ready to fight back against the androids who are specifically targeting Rin, Cecilia, Laura, and Charlotte. As the chaos ensues, Kanzashi finds herself in danger, but Echika comes to her rescue just in time. He fights off the attackers while Kanzashi activates her as to join the battle. Haoki and Tate Nashi also show their skills against their opponents, but Tate Nashi starts to weaken. Despite her condition, she sacrifices herself to create an opening for Haoki to defeat her enemy. Unfortunately, Tate Nashi gets injured in the explosion of her is. Witnessing Tate Nashi's injury, Kanzashi becomes furious and unleashes her anger by single-handedly destroying one of the androids. Her determination to protect her friends fuels her actions in the midst of the battle. Just as things seem to calm down, another android appears and is ready to attack Kanzashi. But before it can strike, Echika jumps in and takes the hit instead. Kanzashi, seeing Echika injured, becomes distracted and doesn't notice the imminent danger. Thankfully, Tate Nashi comes to the rescue and shields Kanzashi with her own body, sustaining serious injuries in the process. Witnessing this selfless act, Kanzashi becomes deeply distressed. However, her sister hands her a special crystal called the Aqua Crystal, which is known for its protective property. Meanwhile, Haoki rushes to Echika's side and uses her abilities to replenish his energy. Together, the three of them combine their powers to defeat the Iz. In a final explosion, the Iz is destroyed, thanks to the power of Tate Nashi's crystal. After some time, Tate Nashi wakes up in the infirmary and finds her sister Kanzashi by her side, taking care of her. Kanzashi expresses regret for distancing herself and being a bad sister, but Tate Nashi quickly reassures her that she is not a bad sister and that she is actually strong. Overwhelmed with emotions, Kanzashi hugs Tate Nashi tightly, tears streaming down her face. Meanwhile, Maya shares important information with Chifuyu. She informs her that the attacking Iz androids are highly advanced and use unregistered cores. Although they were able to recover 2 of these cores, Chifuyu instructs Maya to report to the government that all of the androids were destroyed. The following day, Kanzashi decides to visit Echika in order to express her feelings for him. But before she can do so, she gives him an anime DVD as a gift. Echika, curious, asks if she likes anime, to which Kanzashi enthusiastically replies that she loves it. In her nervousness, she accidentally gives the impression that she loves the anime itself, rather than expressing her love for Echika. Realizing her mistake, Kanzashi quickly runs off, feeling embarrassed by the misunderstanding. The next day, Kanzashi finds herself surrounded by the other girls, who are curious about her relationship with Echika because they have noticed how close they've become. However, they soon realize that Kanzashi is not a rival but someone who genuinely cares for Echika. With open arms, they warmly welcome her into their group, happy to have her as a friend. Afterwards, Maya gives Echika the job of measuring his classmates to make adjustments to their suits. At first, he protests, but Maya tells him that it's already been decided by the student council. Echika tries his best to avoid looking and even closes his eyes. But unfortunately, things take a turn for the worse as he accidentally ends up touching places he shouldn't have. Later on, Cecilia, Haoki, and Rin express their dissatisfaction with their small increase in size. However, Echika doesn't see it as a problem and happily enjoys the meal that Haoki has prepared for him. Rin asks for his opinion on her cooking, and he praises her delicious sweet and sour pork. Curiosity strikes Cecilia, and she wonders about her own cooking skills, leading to a nervous debate about whether or not to tell Echika the truth. Thankfully, their conversation is interrupted by Charlotte, who announces that she has brought Kanzashi along. Excited to learn how to cook, Cecilia visits Haoki for some cooking lessons. Haoki teaches her how to make fried chicken. But when Haoki isn't looking, Cecilia mischievously adds perfume to the chicken, resulting in Haoki feeling unwell after tasting it. The following night, Cecilia seeks help from Charlotte, who teaches her how to prepare dishes that require a pot. However, when Charlotte leaves her alone to watch the pot, Cecilia once again adds perfume to the dish without realizing it. Unfortunately, Charlotte unknowingly tastes it, and even Laura, who wakes up and discovers the food, ends up eating it. As expected, neither of them is able to attend classes the next day due to feeling unwell. Feeling discouraged, Cecilia invites Echika to have lunch. But when she sees the bento prepared by Kanzashi, she believes she will never be able to match its quality. Feeling desperate, she turns to Rin for help and convinces her to assist. However, while they are cooking together, Cecilia accidentally triggers an explosion. The next day, Cecilia says sorry to Echika for not being able to cook something for him, but Echika understands and offers to teach her how to make his favorite dish. Excitedly, they both head to the kitchen to cook together. Meanwhile, Squall is having a meeting with Dr. Tabane and asks if she has thought about making his suits for Phantom Task. Dr. Tabane firmly says she would never do such a thing. Suddenly, Autumn shows up and points a gun at Tabane, but Tabane quickly defends herself by throwing Autumn against a glass display case. Just then, Madoka arrives to confront Tabane, but she effortlessly defeats her as well. When Tabane sees Madoka's face, she correctly guesses her name and mentions that she wouldn't mind creating a personal list for her. The next day, the students go on a fun trip. When they reach the destination, all the girls want Echika to take pictures of them at different places. Eventually, they leave him alone. Later, Echika meets Charlotte, who helps him find a missing part for his camera. They decide to take a walk together. Meanwhile, Rin, Cecilia, and Laura visit a special shrine where people make wishes. Cecilia wishes for Echika to notice her feelings, while Laura wishes to have children in the future. Unfortunately, their moment is interrupted when Echika arrives with Charlotte. The girls feel jealous, but Echika tries to reassure them by saying he wouldn't go on a date with any of them. This makes them angry, and Echika runs away from them. However, later on, they all make up and enjoy some delicious snacks together. Later, Echika remembers things from his earlier days, and Haoki unexpectedly shows up, proposing that they visit the bamboo forest. While Echika attempts to capture a picture of Haoki, Squall suddenly appears and offers to take a photo of both of them. After that, Squall says goodbye, mentioning Echika's name, which leaves them both puzzled since they don't know who Squall is. Afterwards, all the friends come together to visit a popular tourist spot and enjoy the afternoon together. When it's time to see Echika's photos, everyone gathers around him eagerly. In the excitement, they accidentally bump into him, causing his camera to fall. As Echika bends down to pick it up, he unexpectedly meets Madoka. While all this is happening, the class is getting ready to leave, but Echika, Cecilia, and Haoki are nowhere to be found. Chifuyu tells everyone to go ahead without them as she goes to search for them. However, just as she's about to leave, the train doors suddenly close. At the same time, Tate Nashi comes across Squall and tries to stop her, but Squall manages to capture her. Meanwhile, Cecilia and Haoki are attacked by someone named Autumn. In the midst of all this chaos, Madoka reveals to Echika that her true intentions are not to care for him, but to assassinate Chifuyu. With that, she attacks Echika. Kanzashi attempts to intervene, but the system has been hacked. At the same time, Squall informs Tate Nashi that she has placed a bomb on the train and tries to prevent her from stopping it. Tate Nashi quickly calls Kanzashi to warn her about the danger. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Madoka destroys her units and makes her way towards the train. However, Echika steps in and stops her from causing any more harm. Chifuyu warns Echika about the bomb on the train, prompting him to quickly take action against Madoka. In the midst of all this, Kanzashi successfully unlocks the system, allowing them to deploy the as units to stop the train and defuse the bomb. Cecilia and Haoki, having dealt with Autumn, rush to assist Echika. Laura and Rin work together to try and stop the train, while Charlotte attempts to deactivate the bomb. Unfortunately, they are not able to do so in time, and the bomb explodes. Echika is left in shock, unable to believe what he has just witnessed, and becomes paralyzed by the devastating event. While Echika is caught off guard, Madoka takes advantage of the situation and impales him with her lance. As he begins to fall, Haoki tries to catch him. Fortunately, the smoke from the explosion clears, revealing that Laura has managed to contain it using her shield, keeping everyone safe. Cecilia confronts Madoka, but finds herself unable to defeat her. Charlotte and Laura step in to assist. Meanwhile, Echika finds himself once again facing the woman who bears a striking resemblance to Chifuyu. She tries to suffocate him, but Echika calls out for help from the girl dressed in white, who he has a special connection with. He asks for more power, and she grants his request. It becomes clear that Echika has always had a deep bond with his Byakushiki, which appears to him as a girl dressed in white. As the girls continue their battle with Madoka, they manage to bring her down, but to their surprise, she rises again, surrounded by a powerful energy sphere. Just when things seem dire, Tate Nashi takes aim and shoots at Madoka, providing an opening for Echika to deliver a decisive blow. With their defeat imminent, Squall and Madoka make their escape. After the intense ordeal, Echika finally gets a well-deserved break at the base. However, things take an unexpected turn when the owner changes the signs at the entrance, causing the girls to unknowingly enter the same bath as Echika. This puts him in an awkward position, and as the girls discover his presence, they let out a scream of surprise. Thanks for watching till this long, my fellow men of culture. Don't forget to tell us about your favorite waifu from this anime and subscribe to the channel for more content.